Most of our present day systems that deal with pain by running from pain rather than finding pleasure in pain. It might sound fluffy at first, but in reality, when it comes to any form of movement in any kind of relationship to the body, how we have known to treat pain is by in some way running from it. Either we medicate you to numb it, or we do whatever we can to escape it. But there's a reason why the pain-pleasure spectrum is connected. And most of the reason is simply that we frame what is pain and what is pleasure. We are the deciders of that. And at first, again, it might sound a little bit insensitive because there are situations that people go through that are just so unfathomably excruciating. But the fact is, we spend most of our time running from pain rather than searching for pleasure. And with that in mind, we live most of our lives completely defensively, in complete defensiveness, building as much armor as we can, to the point where by the time we're a grown adult, our entire personality is all armor. It's all defensive. We learned who we are in our identity, which was created by escaping a feeling of pain. So we become who we become, and then we say that's who we are. Well, I'm stubborn because that's just who I am as a person. Well, I love this because... Do we love what we love because we actually love it, or do we love what we love because we think we should love it, because we have to love it? What does it look like to live an offensive life? What does it look like to live a life of choices that are potent, that are intentional, not just reactive, not just reacting to some pain and some hurt that we faced at some point in our past, and now we're doing everything we can to not feel that again, even though memory is what percent of how much we want to... Memory, I forget what the exact statistic is. It is morphed to a story that we want to believe. We will look for life to validate whatever story it is we believe. We will find whatever evidence necessary to justify our perspective. But what would change our lives is if we stopped living our days running from pain, doing everything we can to avoid the certain doom we've told ourselves lingers around, just waiting for us to not prepare well enough. But can you ever prepare well enough? Can you ever actually take all of the data into consideration when the fact of the matter is the data to be considered is absolutely infinite? So you can never prepare enough because the future is completely and entirely uncertain. So when it comes to dealing in probabilities and putting your bet on the odds are you can't predict what's coming next. So with that in mind, it's important to remember that the only thing we can predict is that we can't predict it. The only certainty is uncertainty. And that's why for so many of us who, for a moment, the world became very gray. All the black and whites, the absolutes just seemed to fizzle. The irony is, those black and whites were actually gray in the first place. We thought we were standing on concrete, but we just found out later it was only shifting sand. But the irony is, once you let go of the shifting sand, we do find absolutes when we let go of what was falsely certain, an illusion of certainty and security. We actually end up finding out that when you embrace the gray, you find black and whites that existed beyond what you were told you should believe. So it's about letting go of certainty, finding certainty in uncertainty, knowing through not knowing. It's what drives romance. You see so many relationships who say, "You're just not the person who I got with." Well, of course. I am not the person my wife married. Not even close. I'd love to see someone in their vows say something like, I vow to love the you I could never know. Because that's the truth. If we're human beings made in the image of God, that means we're infinite people. There are infinite shades and contrast in your personality that I will never fully know you. And I will never fully know you until I admit that I will never fully know you. You are that big, that you are the cosmos. But what is that thing that's said in fights? You always. Well, we just always. Nothing is always. The only always is that there is no always.